What's up, everybody? Chris here from Bolt Canyon Outdoors, and the sun is coming up, the birds are singing, and it is time to install the new front drive shaft. So let's have a little recap. Alright, so in part one, I removed the factory drive shaft, and here it is right here. You can see in the front, it's got a flange that bolts onto the axle, a U-joint, the shaft itself, and of course, the CV in the back. You can see the boot's torn up, the grease is all gone, the CV has failed, and that's going to happen with any lifted Jeep. Now what we're replacing it with is this custom unit from Tom Wood's drive shaft. The front is a similar bolt-on flange. I went with a 1310 U-joint because I don't really need much more than that. I'm running 34-inch tires. I don't intend to go bigger. Maybe someday if I swap in Dana 60s and an LS swap and need to go with the 1350, I'll get bigger ones. But this is the end that makes the difference. As you can see, it's a dual cardan joint, so it's got two U-joints and a yoke instead of a faulty CV joint. So that's where the strength is going to come from. Not to mention, it's a custom-built, much heavier duty, fully serviceable drive shaft. So let's go ahead and get this one in. All right, step one is going to be to get this big nut off of the flange for the transfer case. First, you want to put it in 4 high. That'll keep this from spinning. Once again, I'm not working with any impact guns or air supply. I'm doing it all with hand tools. So I've got a breaker bar, my socket, and let's see if we can get this guy off. There you have it. Step one is done. Now step two is going to be to get this flange off. Now there's a couple different ways of taking it off. You can use a puller, either a 2 or 3 arm gear puller to pull this thing off. I've seen a lot of people tap it with a hammer and shake it loose. I'm going to try that first. If that doesn't work, we're going to get a puller up there. That wasn't so bad. All right, with the old flange removed, it's time to put on the new yoke. So here it is attached to the new Tom Woods drive shaft. It has 7/16 bolts holding these on. They're just kind of finger tight to hold the yoke in place for shipping. So we're going to take those off, and then we're going to install the yoke. Right, so here's the new yoke. As you can see, it's definitely going to be more heavy duty than the factory option. All right, next up, before we install the new yoke, we're going to want to put silicone inside all the threads. So we're going to get a good amount of silicone in there, and we're going to spread it into all of the little channels there. Sorry, I called it threads, but it's splines. Just work it into the splines. That's going to create a seal on the inside so you don't leak any fluid out. Get a little bit more. Always fun to work with silicone, so make sure you've got a glove on. This stuff gets on everything, and it's a cool morning out here, so it's nice and thick, hard to squeeze. Now this is going to squeeze out as you put the yoke on, and that's fine. Like I said, it's just creating a seal. I think I just got some on the driveway. That's okay. I can clean it up after it dries. Once you've got your silicone in the splines, we'll go ahead and put this on. Try not to get it all over the threads because I'm going to put thread locker on it. Put that on, work it into place. All right, with it in place, you can see the silicone has kind of squeezed its way into position. Next up, we're going to apply thread locker to the inside of the threads of the nut, and we'll put the nut on. Next up, we're going to slide the new drive shaft into place, get it secured onto the transfer case. This can be kind of awkward, so just take your time. And we're going to grab the bolts, put some thread locker in them, and put them through here and here, and then we'll take it back out of 4-wheel drive so we can rotate it to put the other 2 in. Now I'm going to snug these down with 7/16 box wrench, and then we'll move to the front. I put the Jeep back in 2-wheel drive so I could spin the transfer case to tighten up those bolts for the back end of the drive shaft. That way I can rotate it up here to be able to line up the front half of the drive shaft. So we make sure that all the surfaces are clean. I've applied thread locker to the factory 15mm bolts. We'll get it lined up and we'll get it snugged down. those snug down, you can tighten up the rest of the weight and torque them to 55 pound-feet of torque. With everything torqued down to specs, installed correctly, that wraps up the replacement of the factory JKU Front Driveshaft, getting rid of that CV joint and putting in good, reliable U-joints from Tom Wood's Driveshaft. If you guys have any questions, comments, and concerns, leave them below. And then do me a favor, hit that like, hit that subscribe, and ring that bell. That way you'll get notified every time I put out a new install, cool off-road run, gear review, anything like that. So that's it for now. For Bull Canyon Outdoors, this is Chris signing off. Happy trails, everybody.